You wake up this morning, you look at the NHL standings, and you see 5 Canadian teams in playoff spots right now. We're here to break them all down. It is Instant Analysis brought to you by Tylenol Rapid Release Gel Caps. Rapid Release for rapid relief. That is a state of relief for a lot of people in this country, obviously hockey fans. Justin Bourne. Let's start out east. We'll start with the Leafs. They didn't win against the Sharks. They still have a pretty comfortable lead over the Florida Panthers for that 3rd spot in the Atlantic right now. I don't think they necessarily played bad against the Sharks per se. It just feels like one of those games where they couldn't score and a couple bounces go the other way, and San Jose is winning the game.
Yeah, well, this is one of the ones you worried about where you maybe wouldn't get the Leafs' best effort, right? We've made this thing about, when they have their backs up against the wall, they're very good. They didn't have their backs up against the wall against San Jose, and we saw sort of a middling effort. I think I saw a lot of a lack of stops and starts that we saw in the previous week, and guys skating by pucks, which leads to odd man rushes, and Jack Campbell had to play very good to keep them in that hockey game, but you're right. They did have a chance to win the game or at least get a point heading into that 3rd period, and again, they weren't able to find that consistency of defensive effort and did end up falling apart on them. Not a terrible performance, but certainly not the way they wanted to start out the California trip.
Is it too convenient then to say, oh, it was just one of those games where it wasn't, luck? Is that being too generous to them there in that sense? Because it seems like you saw some things that, the casual wouldn't have seen.
Yeah, that's part of it. On the other hand, I think it's important to remember that they are missing a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Like their back end is still missing Riley and Cece and other guys
out there
Muzzin,
too.
Right?
Yeah.
So there are moments where it's like it's evident that they don't have their strongest roster, and I think it was visible at times last night.
And there's so many guys out, you can't blame them for getting one. There's a whole list. We have a scroll of injured Maple Leafs at times. All right, let's move to the West right now. The Oilers, 3 straight wins, winning in a very different way yesterday against Dallas. Grinding one out, backup goalie in net and Koskinen. It's hard to look at them and just not be impressed, right? Like they're winning in different ways. Obviously with DRAISAITL and McDavid, maybe the 2 best players in the league right now. How legitimate are they in your eyes?
Very. Yeah, this is a team I've totally changed my tune on from the start of the season. A lot of it did have to do with their deadline acquisitions, just because it pushed down players into their proper spots in the roster. And then you look at Kassian coming back from suspension, Yamamoto gets healthy, Clefbaum's going to be back soon. They seem poised to be a dangerous team down the stretch and push for the lead in the Pacific. And on top of that, they got a win from their goaltender last night. And I think you need that at this point in the season, particularly a guy I think you might call the backup there in Koskinen. So a big 2 points there. They weren't the better team. They got the 2 points, and those are the wins you need if you want to end up on top.
DRAISAITL Hart Trophy, where does he rank amongst the favorites in your eyes right now?
He's the guy.
Yeah,
he's the guy. Yeah. I really feel like you have to play, and that's not a slight on McDavid, but when you do miss games, it is very real, and he was very good in McDavid's absence. Not to mention, by percentage of points on goals that your team has scored, he's at a point on over half of the Oilers' goals this year.
That's incredible.
The next closest in the league is like 40%, or Panarin is somewhere around 44, actually. So, DRAISAITL's my guy.
Okay, so you look at that Pacific standings. It was tight for a very long time. The Golden Knights right now first, the Oilers second. And then you have the Flames in third. Again, it's been up and down hockey all year with them. Where do you kind of assess their play right now as we get into the final 15 games of the season?
Calgary.
Yeah.
Calgary. I just see an inconsistency there.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of actually leafiness to their game where you're not really sure what you're going to get some nights. And, same with Toronto where there's back end issues. Giordano had been out. Hamonic missed a chunk of games. Now they have those guys back. They won their last game. I do expect to see some better hockey from them going forward. But I don't get the same vibe from the Flames that I do the Oilers.
Yeah.
Something seems to be missing, but they do have one of the easier schedules in the league remaining, so that'll play in their favor.
And it's weird because, again, they were the top seed in the West last year before that playoff debacle at the hands of Colorado. Many expected them to maybe come out with a little more energy and passion this year, but we haven't seen it yet, although they are still in a playoff spot. But right on their heels in the Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks. I know they've been struggling of late. They lost Jacob Markstrom in net, the big cog in keeping things together. The kids are still doing all right in Vancouver. It feels like the veterans are the ones that making those mistakes. Where do you assess Vancouver at this point in the season right now, given how tight things are in that wildcard race in the West and the fact that they're without their top goalie?
Yeah, well, the goaltending thing hurts a lot for them. Markstrom is such a big part of what they do because I think they're a high-risk team. Like, they have explosive forwards who can create a lot of offense. Their D-core is a little bit shakier, so when you have offense-first forwards and not great D, your goaltender has to be fantastic. Yeah. And I think Demko's really good, but is he Jacob Markstrom yet? I don't think so. So Vancouver, they've got their work cut out for them because they do rely so heavily on their young guys.
They're not choking yet, guys. They're not choking yet.
But it is an important stretch for them here, and we'll see if the young guys can rise.
Brock Besser out as well, obviously, on top of some other injuries. Very much like the Leafs again. And they're missing some key guys, and they rely on their goaltending. When it's not there, they get exposed a little bit more. Another team that's relied on their goaltending all year long, the Winnipeg Jets, and Connor Hellebuyck, he seems to have risen to the occasion. Again, essentially all season long, considering how injured they've been. They're in a wild card spot right now as well. Again, 4 teams in the West, Canadian franchises, all in playoff spots as of today. It just speaks to how impressive he's been this season. And I know goaltenders, it's not really trendy for them to be considered, Hart Trophy candidates these days, but I figured he'd probably be amongst the handful of people that should get consideration given how depleted this team has been and where they are right now.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And when you do sort these sort of who's the front runner for the Hart, you do think, all right, well, there's McDavid and DRAISAITL and Panarin and McKinnon, but then, yeah, I mean, what Connor Hellebuyck has done in Winnipeg has been unbelievable. Just how important he has been to that team. When you talk about true value, there's no chance they're where they are in the standings without him. Yeah. A lot of credit goes to the coach in a situation like that, but certainly the goaltending has been huge, knowing how depleted their right side has been. But they're getting Morrissey back. Their schedule softens up a little bit. There's a lot of talent there. These guys are right in the mix, and it would be a ton of fun to see all these Canadian teams sneak in and see what we get in the first round.
Well, like I said, 5 in playoff spots right now, 4 in the Western Conference, and if you're looking for an all-Canadian matchup, the only one that would happen right now, it's a Battle of Alberta between Calgary and Edmonton. That is Justin Bourne.